Hello and welcome to the Clashing of Steel. So today I am trying to play Caesar with melee infantries. I actually wanted to post this video a long time ago, but there were several complications and a new faction was announced, and so I think I made this video before the end of the closed beta. The idea here was to see if Caesar could be useful playing melee infantries. As the news themselves aren't directly bad, Caesar was somewhat useful, but there were certain complications with Caesar's tier 5 commander skill. As you see them here, Veni, Vidi, Vici. All of these skills can be used by any unit types, and it will buff nearby allies as well. Well, the Veni is excellent boost for melee infantries, giving melee defense and melee attack. While the second skill, Vidi, has only one useful stat for the melee infantries, which is the movement speed. Unfortunately, it can only be maximized at 10%, making the second skill slightly a bit more useless. Perhaps the missile dispersion will also affect the Javelins or the Pila, so there might be a second effect there as well. And the third skill, Vici, could actually be a game changer. But for that skill to last 20 seconds, the unit you have activated it on needs to stay out of melee combat, or otherwise it will deactivate. If this skill would last throughout melee engagements, it would be unstoppable. It could keep pikes or spears from deploying themselves, or using any types of skills. Well, here actually the Veni paid out somewhat. It boosted my team members and my units, so we could finish off the spears. I got a little burnt by the scorched dirt and still am taking some archer fire, but in overall we did rather well. Because Caesar with melee infantry doesn't have any charges or other boosts of damage except the Veni, he must be played rather well. If you go mindlessly head on, he won't last like Germanicus. He won't withstand like Sulla or any other type of swordsman. I think I played around 5 matches with Caesar and won 3 of them. I tried to make Vici work in any way I could. I didn't try to bug it to work in any way in combat, but I just wanted to see if I could use it to silence the spearmen, for example, from using the phalanx. So, okay, I'm gonna skip a bit ahead. Here I'm chasing after the spearmen. I'm just chasing after spears and archers. I use my Vici here, although I actually wanted to show here how they can just counter it with melee infantry. But for some reason he was either multitasking or not paying more attention. I used the silence early on, slightly before the engagement. He might have used the phalanx or deploy phalanx just at the same time or a second later after I silenced him. Because right now you can see that he does not have the silence buff active on him. He realizes it once I run past his units. Right now he deployed the phalanx. Against spearmen this skill might not be that useful. But if they were pikemen, I could silence them before the deployment, go near to them, engage them, and the moment my silence deactivates, they would already be engaged and unable to deploy pikes. So, few glimpses of another match. Here I'm playing Caesar a bit more like Germanicus. I am pushing head on after the Javelins towards the opponent's base. I'm being somewhat offensive and trying to play Caesar a bit more like regular melee infantries. Although I do have pikemen support here. And well, I'm guessing the cavalry isn't that big of a match towards me as well. The only thing I have is Veni. I can use Vidi for a small movement speed boost, or Vici in hopes to silence somebody. But it mostly won't pay off. These swordsmen are no match to me, so there isn't much of a honor here. Although they are trying to mess with me with scorched dirt, I ain't that naive that I will stay in it, and well, I'm gonna use it to burn those guys. The problem with Caesar and melee infantry is not just the Vici, but that you also need to support. The idea is that you need to use Veni as a support towards your team members. not just to boost your own engagements. Because with Caesar and the swordsman, you aren't like any other sword infantry player. You are still a support commander. So the best way you can support is support your melee infantries. You can give them melee attack and melee defense with Veni. You can give them movement speed with Veni. And if you stay out of combat, you can silence opponents with Veni. But it is rather hard to do so when you're playing with random team members. In overall, Caesar with melee infantry can work, but you need some teamwork to make it happen. This could probably be one of the hardest commanders to play support with melee infantries. For example, with Catapult, your buffs or debuffs aren't disabled once you engage. But with Caesar, the tactics are so much more trickier if you want to use your Veni. But you can still use your units to support. Probably the biggest problem you have with Caesar is that he doesn't have any charge or other high damage inflicting abilities. Although he can support, his effectiveness compared to Catapults, light artillery or Javelins is rather low. If you really want to support your melee infantries, you can pick probably all Javelins or 2 Javelins and 1 sword infantries. Still being able to give support and weaken melee opponents before engagements. Although I did rather well with Caesar and the melee infantries, to be honest, I would still rather pick a combination of Javelins and sword infantries or sword infantries and Catapults or something like that. There is definitely some support available with melee infantries, but it will most likely require too much teamwork to play in random battles. So I will personally probably stick with Catapults. Or perhaps in some occasions with Javelins. Well, this is it about playing Caesar with melee infantries. Anyways, don't forget to subscribe and thanks for watching.